top, alright, from the top floor.
Hello, hello, hello. How's everyone doing? This is Chris. It's Tips from the Top Floor, episode 908, coming to you from the Viewfinder Villa near Hanover in Germany. I had a better opening line in the past. I'm relearning. Hello. This is the podcast about photography. I am very glad to be here. Oh, look, there's birds chirping in the background. Hey, what a nice summer day. It's actually hot, quite hot here. So let's see. 3 things I want to talk about today. We have to talk about AI. Yes, artificial intelligence, which has been with us for a long time, but it has made big strides recently, and in photography as well, or in art in general. So we need to talk about DALL-E, DALL-E version 2, DALL-E 2, OpenAI's product. It's in semi-open beta. I'm on the waiting list. And what that thing does, I mean, it's hard to miss. I'm pretty sure I'm not telling you anything new, but what DALL-E does is and the DALL-E is, of course, a combination of DALL-E, as in Salvador Dali, and WALL-E, the robot. So that's where the name comes from. DALL-E creates images based on text prompts. There used to be, or there is a DALL-E version 1, and that was okay-ish, but DALL-E 2 just blows that out of the water. Creates pictures, creates art based on your description. And I think that is pretty, well, is there a word that combines awesome and scary? Because that is what it is for me. It does 2 things really well. It does it can do, okay, not by default, it can do things really well. It can create photos, very good photos most of the time, and it can put a lot of people out of business. And that is one of the implications that kind of scare me. So let's look at this. What's the business model? Well, first of all, creating such a network, such a neural net, or let's say not creating it, but training it, which is where most of the work goes in, is like in labeling the pictures and then creating the training data for it, which is, by the way, slightly controversial when it comes to DALL-E 2. But that whole bunch of, we're talking, I don't know, 600 million pictures or something from the web. There's privacy implications, there's ownership implications, and so on, but I'm not really going to go into that part of that model. But yeah, that data needs to be then used to train a neural network. And that training run for one of these large neural networks can take weeks to months. So there's a huge amount of compute power, there's a huge amount of resources that goes into training this model. And then when the model is trained, as with other AIs, running that and retrieving data from it is comparatively small. I mean, that's why you do have a neural processing chip in your Apple Watch, for example, because that doesn't take much power, but training the network does. So their business model is to sell you access to the trained model. They don't give you the trained model because that's the money. No, but you can buy tokens, so-called tokens, which is kind of the currency of using it. And then whenever you tell it to generate something, that uses up a certain amount of tokens. And then once you're done, you have to pay them again. That's the business model. So their name, OpenAI, is not quite that open, actually. The not so OpenAI, but the system is impressive. There are other systems out there. Competition is there. One is called Midjourney. Midjourney is in beta right now, as well as is DALL-E. My brother has access to Midjourney. He's a graphic designer. He has he's created a lot of interesting photos there. So, or art in general. There's another one called Imagen, Imagen. I think you pronounce it Imagine. Of course, it's image and imagine combined. That's by Google. It is apparently even better than DALL-E, but it is still completely closed. Only an announcement there. But the examples they showed, I mean, they might be cherry-picked, but yeah, quite realistic stuff. I mean, realistic as in dangerous for stock photography. That realistic. So I think that's one of the big implications, that stock photography, the way we look at it, at least part of the stock photography, might be gone soon. Because instead of going to a stock site and finding the right pictures and making a selection and then paying a license for whatever use, it might be possible very soon for everyone to just type in what you need and spits out a photo for you, and then you can use that. Or might even be integrated in platforms. Just imagine a WordPress plugin that gives you a DALL-E box. They type in what you need, or even better, it analyzes your text and suggests 3, 4, 5 pictures to you, and you choose one and say, not quite there. Can you please refine it? Add an elf in the left corner, and boom, there it is. So, yeah. Do we still need our cameras? Are we still? Well, okay, documentary stuff, of course, still there. But it's very interesting, especially the skill set required to write good prompts, because that is my big thing. I've had just a very short access to Midjourney, and I played with it, and my initial reaction, sitting in front of that empty page where you write your prompt and then go generate, my initial reaction was like a pretty blank stare and a pretty what do I do now? Because of course my approach to photography is visual, right? I let myself be inspired by where I am, what I see there, what is there. So it's always a back and forth between the environment, the people, the things, the props, whatever you have available to you, and making that into something. I do not create a photo from scratch. It's always based on something. So sitting there in front of a blank page, no inspiration there whatsoever, I was like, okay, person, generate a person. Of course, that didn't turn out very interesting. So the whole prompt building business it requires different skills, requires a very different approach to. I'm hesitating to use the word photography because it, of course, isn't photography. It is photo generation, generative photography, whatever you want to call this. And yeah, I've played more with a few of these, and I'm getting better, and I'm learning the keywords. I think if you understand a bit how AIs work, and especially what kind of data sets they used, then that will help you with prompt building. For example, like you can just put in what you want, like I don't know, a blue frog sitting on a yellow flower, and then that will generate some kind of picture. But then if you specify that it has been shot with studio lighting and professional lens, macro, bokeh, lens flare, whatever, then that will help the system generate the picture that you want. So it's an iterative process. It is more of a, let me build it up and go from some intermediate results and refine them and so on. So it's not a one-stop thing at this point, because still you have to, it's the same as with your camera trying to interpret what your intentions are and setting your exposure and focus right. No, you still have to kind of nudge it in the right direction if you want to be sure that you get exactly what you want. So the same with these image generation systems, which, by the way, they also generate drawings, paintings, other kind of art, 3D art, and so on. It's really amazing what they can do. So, DALL-E by OpenAI is a good example. And yeah, implications on stock photography, yes. Implications on, remember 2013 when the Chicago Sun-Times, the newspaper, from one day to the next day fired all their staff photographers. And instead they gave all their editors iPhones and an hour of training or something along those lines. They replaced good photographers with good enough photographers. And of course, the image quality suffered, but in the end, that was good enough for them. And it hurt. It hurt a lot, especially those impacted, and it sent a message to other publications as well. And there is a good chance that some of the photography that you would need for magazines, for newspapers, they're on the way out anyway, but for publications in general, no matter where, what medium they take place. But that will change, that will shift, there will be people who either adapt their skill level or lose their jobs. Photography and art in general, if you see what these systems make based on your prompts, then a lot of the photography that you used to do is not necessary anymore. Just goes away, poof, like that. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Does that scare you? Is it exciting? Again, I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm still searching for a word that that includes exciting and scared at the same time. So yeah, your feedback, absolutely welcome. voice@tfttf.com. Send a voice memo and get your voice here on the show. So AI, that topic, the whole topic area of AI will not go away. We are going to talk about things there more in the future. A quick little tool suggestion that I've been using more and more lately. Have you heard of Photopea? P as in the green P, photo, PHOTOPEA.com. It's an online, in your web browser, Photoshop kind of clone. And yes, I do have a lot of tools around, and but honestly, for a quick edit here and there, putting some text on a picture or something on the go on a computer that you don't have your default tools on, that is brilliant. It's ad finance, so you can you'll have a few ads on the right hand side. But yeah, it does layers, it does layer modes, it even includes the artboard concept that I know from Serif, from their Affinity suite. And it is just in general a very, very capable little browser-based photo editor. I've found out about this a while ago, but then just recently got back to it. And so yeah, check it out, photopea.com. And last but not least, a cool thing from the field of space. Have you ever heard of a KTM? A Kineto tracking mount. So here we go. There's a rocket and it's, 60 kilometers away from you, and it's moving at 5,000 miles an hour or something. And you have a 10,000 millimeter lens on a camera, and you want to track that thing. You've seen all the footage of SpaceX and so on when they track those rockets until they are like up, almost up where they need to go. And that is if you've ever tried, let's say, a 2000 millimeter lens on your camera, then and handhold that pointed at something, you know how shaky that is. So doing that with a 10,000 millimeter lens, it doesn't work handheld. Never, ever. Even on a tripod, that does not really work because if you have a flea next jumping up and down next to the tripod, and that whole thing will show in the picture. So there's there are the KTMs, the Kineto tracking mounts, for example, at the Kennedy Space Center, that have been around for since the Apollo days, and they're pretty much expensive tripods. So just imagine, well, I'll link it in the show notes. Just imagine the very high tech tracking mount. I think it comes from the military to track other fast flying things. I think that's where the technology comes from, and it used to be manned by skilled operators and I'm probably men, to track like Saturn V rockets and so on. And that has now, they are still using those same mounts. They pretty much hold any kind of camera, so it's not, the optics is just like on a regular tripod. But they are now tracking semi-automated trackers pretty much. So they will be controlled remotely by an operator at mission control. And that is how these things work. Kineto tracking mount, KTM. I just found out that that's what they're called just a short while ago. And NASA, by the way, uses another thing along looking that up is I found out that NASA still uses a mix of digital and film cameras on these mounts. Like some of those cameras still have like 1,000-foot film reel in them to shoot stills, but I think mostly to film and to analyze the rockets in great detail. And I wondered why. I tried to find out why they're still using film, and I haven't found a definitive answer, but it looks like it's an established process that works, and it works really well. The results are, for their purposes, as good as they get with digital. And my personal assumption is also that dynamic range is, especially in the highlights, is important. I mean, just imagine how bright a rocket plume is. And you want that, you need the detail, you need to see how your exhaust forms and stuff like that. There's a lot of visual inspection going on, and the film, especially some color negative films, are just amazing when it comes to the dynamic range in the highlights. I mean, if you look at, I don't know, Portra, Kodak Portra, for example, I think that can take 4 or 5 additional stops on the bright end and still shows you detail, which with a digital camera, not so easy. So film does have a few advantages, especially when it comes to really bright things and preserving some detail in there. So I guess that is one of the reasons. And yeah, with that, we are at the end of this episode 100. 900. That's long ago. 908 of Tips from the Top Floor. And yeah, let me know how you liked it. And that was it for this episode of Tips on the Top Floor. Thank you so much for being tuned in. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being around. You guys are awesome. And of course, I'm looking forward to your feedback. Get your voice heard here on the show. I have an email box that is ready to receive your voice memos and other things. Voice@tfttf.com. voice at tfttf.com, or follow TFTF photo, TFTTF PHOTO on Twitter for announcements and things and to interact. We're also still running the TFTTF Slack. It's a bit quiet there, but hey, if you want to find out more, go to tfttf.com/yslack, WHYSLACK, tfttf.com/yslack.
I remember that I told you there'd be sunshine after rain, and I told you there'd be laughter after pain. I remember that you said...
All right, that was it. Thanks for listening. Take care. Be nice to each other. Take awesome photos and happy shooting.